Now, when you say you are in, talks, when you're in talks with some political parties, are you aware that the Labour Party has more of the participation of Nigerians in this struggle than a political party? So you saying that you want to go in talks, how do you think Nigerians will accept this? Understanding the fact that in your own manifesto and in your own ideology, you want to retire the old order. Is it not same? Is it not? How do I put it? Does it not translate to the fact that you are going back to your words by saying you don't want the same people? These are the same people who are boasted. They have structures, a structure based on criminality. Are they not still the same party you want to go in talks with, consolidate effort with, to unseat the current administration?
I think that would only be the case if we were willing to work with the APC. Because the APC is the only party that has ruled Lagos State for 20 years. So the APC cannot blame any other person for anything that is wrong in Lagos State. So whoever we're working with has never contributed to the detriment of this state. That doesn't mean that they haven't had problems at the federal. That's a different story. But when we are talking about Lagos State, we are only working with people who are
should it not be thrown to the public as a conversation rather than you imposing?
Oh, no, it's not an imposition.
Like you want to work with this person, but are Nigerians going to accept this? That's the question.
100%.
Because it's a struggle for Nigerians. As at yesterday, what I'm saying is, as at yesterday, the court case that is already going on, Nigerians are saying, Peter Obi, give us an account whereby we'll be able to channel our financial support to this cause. It is not your cause. It is not your fight. It is the fight of Nigerians. So don't you think you should engage Nigerians more to get their own feed as regards if they are going to be in support of you consolidating, perhaps with other parties?
I think the Nigerian people have put a certain amount of faith in our leaders within the party. They have shown that they know that we have their best interests at heart. And they have given us, that's the whole idea of governance. We pick people that we believe embody our values, and we allow them to make decisions on their behalf. The process would be too long if every time we wanted to make a move, we had to go back. And the Lagosians have supported us, and they know our values. So whoever we're working with has to come and succumb to our values. We are the bigger party right now. We are the ones in power. We are the ones who won at the last election.
So they work on your terms?
So they will work on our terms. We are not negotiating with anybody so that they can come and tell us how to do what we are going to do.
That's the point.
No, not at all.
Okay, let's talk about, we're still talking alliances. Are you aware that in some states in the country, the Labour Party is already forming alliance with some other parties? For instance, in Oyo State, the Labour Party has decided to support the current governor, that Seyi Makinde, even though the governorship candidate in that particular state is saying is not in support of what the party has decided to do. In Adamawa State, the Labour Party governorship candidate has stepped down for the APC governorship candidate. All of these developments, how do you think they may affect the chances of the Labour Party, not just in Lagos, in other states?
Well, we have elements within the Labour Party who purport to be part of us, but are not acting as though they are part of us, So that is not new. It happens occasionally, and it's very unfortunate. Now, what is happening in Oyo State? We still have a candidate. And as a party, as a whole, we are behind our candidates, not behind anybody else.
So is there a division? It's looking like there's a division within that party in that state. Because if the candidate is saying, I don't understand what my party members are doing, I'm not in support of the governorship candidate of the PDP, Governor Seyi, who is the current governor, Governor Seyi Makinde, I don't align with what they're saying. Isn't that a form of disarray? Disunity within the party? Not
at all. I think those people have just quite simply changed alliances. You see, I cannot say I am playing for Manchester United and then wear a Chelsea shirt and enter the pitch and play for Chelsea. The moment I enter the pitch and I wear that uniform, everybody knows I'm a Chelsea player, right? So these are people who are clearly no longer in the Labour Party. What we have in Adamawa is somebody who has simply defected from the Labour Party to join the APC.
But that's your gubernatorial candidate.
Yes, he has defected. You're more than welcome. Anybody can defect.
So as it stands, there's no Labour Party candidate in Adamawa State?
The moment a member of our party, steps down for an APC candidate, you are no longer a member of our party.
Is there any disciplinary measures for such kind of conduct?
I believe at the national level, those kind of discussions are already probably being had right now as we speak. And I will leave that to the national.
Yeah, but beyond that, do you have any plans to install? It's already too late, actually, right now to get. So it means that there wouldn't be any Labour Party candidate in Adamawa State.
Unfortunately, that's
how do you think this would affect the elections?
In that particular state, it would be disenfranchisement of our supporters in that election, and that's very unfortunate. But you know, these things do happen. You know, our priority right now is to make sure that we take the states like Lagos, you know, the center of power, and Lagosians are overwhelmingly, you know, they have come out and they've said they want to change. And that's why they voted for Labour. But forget that election result that they publicized for us. We won by a far larger margin. Again, we will prove that in court when the time comes.
So we know that it's going to be a long period of litigations, especially following the February 25th election. How do you think this would affect the whole preparation towards these coming elections, March 11th? There are also talks about how it may be postponed. INEC has been talking about the fact that they want to reconfigure the beavers. They're asking the court to grant them that permission. And if the court refuses to grant them, they're saying that it may affect the forthcoming elections.
It would be very sad and unfortunate if the elections have to be postponed. But again, it just gives us more time to consolidate, discuss with our people, plan, and go out there and vote.
You know, one of the things that some people talked about is that the Labour Party doesn't have that national spread yet. And that was why they probably didn't get, you know, they didn't take the cake when it comes to the presidential election. That, yes, maybe they have some supporters in Lagos, they have in the southwest, in the east, southeast, but when it comes to the north, that they may have not been able to get that block vote. And that's probably why they didn't get the, you know, they didn't win the elections. What are your thoughts on that?
I think when we prove our case in court, we'll see that we did get that. All these ideas are not new to us. First, they said structureless party. They laughed at us. They said it's impossible. But some of us believed, and some of us joined, and some of us put our might behind it. Then we won. Now they're saying, "Oh, you don't have the spread," after rigging the elections. You know, I mean, come on. Let the court process decide on what the actual election results were. And the Labour Party is not going anywhere anytime soon. We are here to stay. We are a party that symbolizes a new Nigeria, hope. We are not a broom, nor are we an umbrella. We are about the
hope
family.
Sounds familiar.
Yes.
We know the party that ran with the mantra hope.
And they destroyed the hopes of Nigerians.
Well, we'll see how that pans out with the forthcoming elections. But let's look at the trajectory, political trajectory of your principal, Gbadebo Road Survival, who, of course, I talked about earlier the fact that he has moved from the COA party to the PDP to the Labour Party. And there have been talks about how political parties in Nigeria lack ideologies, and that's why you see the cross-carpeting. It's like they're all the same, birds of a feather. They're just looking for, you know, a party that serves their interest. In fact, Gbadebo just moved into the Labour Party just like Peter Obi when the PDP was going to conduct their primaries. That was in 2022. Do you think that this gives that faith, or that gives that strong conviction that he actually is in for the job, or is just in there to take the cake, to take from the cookie jar like every other, you know, politician has been doing?
Mr. Gbadebo Road Survival is more than committed to the vision he has for Lagos State, for a Lagos that works, a Lagos that would actually deliver for the people. And so is Mr. Peter Obi. Now, what these gentlemen have in common is that they both were within a party that there was no transparency, there was no accountability, there was a lot of waggle. And
the same party you're in talks with right now?
Yes, because we are out here to display something even worse. Something that has a monster that has been destroying the lives of Nigerians. So you're saying a party is the worst? No, but the
question is, what's different about all these parties?
You know, one of the key things I said is, whoever we're working with on our terms. You know, we're not going to them cup in hand, saying, please come and help us, and then they will tell us, okay, you must do this. No, we're going to them as the leading as the leading people going into this election, we're going to them and saying, listen, there are some of you here that actually share some of our values. If you do, you're more than welcome to come and help us take this state and deliver the state.
All right.
Do you understand?
Peter Obi is somebody who, in his mantra, has always been emphasizing on making governance less transactional. How will Gbadebo, your principal, achieve that in Lagos State?
One of the key things that we've said is that we will publicize every single expense from Lagos State coffers.
That's accountability.
That's accountability and transparency, embodying, using technology to show Lagosians what is really going on. If we're awarding a contract, you will know how much it was that we spent on that contract. And we will use the benchmarks around the world, so you will know how we are doing. Now, the Lagos, the rail that has been constructed,
Blue line.
the blue line, only one line has been finished. Billions have been spent on that. Billions that when you compare it to other projects that have been done around the world, it is extortion. It has been inflated by almost 2, 3, 4, 5 times what it should be. That will end under us, because you'll be able to see this is how much we spent. You can compare that to the world benchmark and see how well are these people doing. How much are they spending? Where is our money going to? And again, people underestimate how much of the wealth of this state is being taken by a few. And once we can cut those people off, we free the resources to go back to the people and create a Lagos State that actually works for everybody.
What are your plans to deal with flood in Lagos State? We know that most times when this thing, it comes like an emergency, but it really shouldn't be an emergency, because it is something that happens on a yearly basis, especially on the island. What are your plans to bring some form of respite to those people, especially when it comes to getting displaced from their homes?
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Gbadebo Rhodes Viber is an architect. And he has experience.
We've had an architect as a governor, even the current governor.
No, I think he's
has some experience in architecture.
No architecture. I think he's surveyor.
So isn't it related?
He's a surveyor whose hands are tied. Now we're going to get an architect who is free, who has experience in urban planning and can design irrigation systems that would actually drain. You see, the lack of urban planning is what is leading to the flooding all over Lekki. Anybody knows that when you're designing a city like that, when you're that close to the ocean, you must design a proper irrigation system. And when we have proper waste management, we can put an end to the clogging of our drainage systems. Do you understand? So once we can achieve this, I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but a few Lagosians would have seen that sometimes you pass those people sweeping the last man, and guess where they are putting the dirt? In the gutter. They are sweeping it directly inside. They are sweeping the sand inside. Ask yourself, have you ever seen a last mile person walking around with a mobile bin, or having a trash can? So where is all the bottles that they are picking up going? Into our gutters.
Now let's talk about IGR.
Sorry?
Let's talk about IGR.
IGR.
Internally generated revenue.
Oh, IGR. Okay, I'm with you.
In the last few years, we've not been able to account for how much the state generates. And of course, there's this narrative that one man is in charge of collecting our IGR.
Yes, there's a consultancy company called Alpha Beta. This is not news. I mean, the former head of that Alpha Beta was actually willing to come out and testify, and even threatened to sue and expose everything. Okay. Guess what? The court that was analyzing that case got burnt down. The only courts to have been burnt down in Lagos State. This is public information. The court that was doing it burnt down, and the man himself disappeared. All of a sudden, he kept quiet. We don't know what happened to him. We don't know if he was blackmailed or if he was pushed out.
So how do we intend to account for the actual amount?
Do they?
Yes.
Not we.
Do they? Yeah. Do you? You know, how are you going to achieve that, especially with regards to giving accountability for the revenue Lagos generates if you emerge as?
First things first, we will make known to everybody, any consultancy firms.
Are you sure it's not going to be something that one man will use his company?
No. And one of the interesting things is any taxpayer in Nigeria, a Lagosian, knows that I have never received a letter from Alpha Beta to recover tax. All tax recovery is being done by elements of the state, but yet a firm is allegedly I mean, what are they consulting on exactly? What are we telling me that the state itself cannot think through or hire the right kind of talent to manage its own tax collection itself? Why has the same company been involved in tax collection for the past 20 years? You mean that the state has not learned how to do its own job for 20 years? It's obviously just a mechanism to extort this great city.
So what practical steps are you going to do to avert such situations where an individual still within the same government is using his company as a consultant?
We put an end to it firstly, and again, transparency in our government.
How would you put an end to it?
Discontinue their contract. It's just that simple. It's just that simple.
Let's talk about decongesting the Apapa gridlock. This has been on for years, and the current governor, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, talked about ending it in 6 months, and then later on,
let me add, sorry. And he said, if he does not, we should vote him out. There's a video. That is true.
Well, we're not focusing on that.
That if he cannot achieve his promises, he told us that we should vote him out. So
therefore, let me make my point. So he talked about that, and later on he came out to say, well, I didn't know it was this serious. So I'm saying that so that when you're talking about how to deal with it, you look at practical steps and not give us promises that eventually we would have to hold you to. And we know that this has been on for years. There has been talks about the fact that there is a cabal that is not allowing that gridlock to go away. And that's also in line with the port system in the country. We know the Lekki Deep Blue Sea port was just recently launched, and there are hopes that perhaps with that launch, it would reduce the focus on the Apapa, port system. But it's not going away. The gridlock is still there. What are the plans of Gbadebo Road Viva if he eventually wins the elections come March 11?
I always say that wherever you see a lasting problem, it is by design, not by accident. It's not because we don't have the brains or the talents to change those things. It is by design. And the reason why it's by design is because, like you said, there are some people, there are some individuals who are benefiting from this. There are some individuals who are benefiting from extorting those containers. There are some individuals who are trading, oh, we can give you express service. Do you get what I'm saying? So once you have a new government that is committed to transparency, accountability, and can put an end to this corruption wherever it may lay, you find that a lot of these problems naturally just ease themselves up. But one of the key things, like you said, is moving a lot of that activity to the new port and ensuring that new port takes most of that load as well. And then just ensuring that these things are done in a proper, easy and transparent way.
What about also opening other ports in other parts of the country? We have ports in Port Harcourt, on a port. They are different. There's a Lagos, even Tinkan Island port. Are there plans to also look into getting those ports functional to further decongest?
Most definitely. Again, the only reason why you would have too much pressure on one port and completely ignore another one that could be revamped is because there's a way you are making money in that one. These are things. It doesn't take a genius. You can ask a 15-year-old child how to solve this problem. There's too much pressure here. Then fix this one now. Do you understand? It's just that simple. But the reason why these things are not being done is because there are too many people benefiting from the rot. I always say Nigeria might look like chaos from far, but when you come really close, you know that it is organized chaos. It is organized and structured chaos that is benefiting a few.
Your principal had not been actively involved in governance. But at some levels, he had shown his spirit of commitment and all. What is the likelihood that he gets there and he realizes that the rot was more than what he envisaged, and he might want to learn on the job?
Firstly, I'd like to point out that the current governor also was not elected to any office prior to his election. You know that, right? The governor before him was not elected.
But some people will tell you that they had some form of guidance in terms of the godfatherism in place in the state.
Godfatherism is not guidance. Guidance is what Peter Obi will provide for Mr. Gbadebo Road Viva. Lordship, enslavement, it was what was being provided to the previous governors. none of our governors, even our alleged president-elect himself, had not served. He was elected to Senate, and then there was the end of the democracy. So he himself had no prior experience in government until they stepped in. But what we've seen is that they were able to achieve a little bit.
Some people will tell you that they've been at the corridors of power, especially within the Lagos state, and that he always talks about the fact that he had the blueprint for Lagos and the roadmap and all of that. I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate. I'm just saying, just saying what is the information out there that people are holding on to.
You need to look at these corridors of power as an institution of training and learning. And the only people who are promoted are people who know how to play the game as it was being played. So anybody that tells you, oh, I've been around them and I've learned from them, from the corridors of power, all he has learned is how to be corrupt. All he has learned is how to further impoverish the people. All he has learned is how to serve the system that currently exists. So we are proud of the fact that our principal has not in any way or shape or form been associated with the very institutions and the monstrosity that is being created around the state. We are a breath of fresh air, and that is what Lagosians need.
Peter Obi claimed he was mentored by Atiku.
To an extent, yes.
To an extent?
Yes.
Are you making it relative?
I said to an extent. But just, you can learn from somebody without embodying their values.
How?
Now, you went to university. We all went to university. We all went to school. Now, does that mean you share the same values as your university lecturers? If your university was a certain religion, does that mean you convert? Your lecturer was a certain religion, does that mean you converted? If he married 5 wives, does that mean you go and marry 5 wives? If he beat his wife at home, does that mean you beat his wife? No, you can learn philosophy, politics from him, but you don't have to learn everything about him. You don't have to become him. So it's possible to learn something from somebody and not embody the same philosophy and values that they have. You can learn a little bit of them.
All right, so let's gradually bring this to a close. If eventually the Labour Party and your principal, the candidate of the party, Gbadebo Road Revival, doesn't win the elections, what next?
I wouldn't have to consider that possibility, because I'm very confident in the people of Lagos, because they have said overwhelmingly that they want a breath of fresh air. So
but it's a three, don't forget, it's at present, it's still a 3-man horse race. And there would always be a winner, there would be losers, those who wouldn't, of course, smile home. And so you're saying, if you're saying you're not considering that possibility, you're sounding like one of the parties, one of the candidates who contested at the presidential election and, of course, said, no, he didn't see that possibility of losing. And so you don't think it's necessary to just prepare yourself for the worst and hope for the best?
Well, not particularly, but what I do know is that when we do come in, we will go about healing.
There you go again.
Healing this nation, and we will console the losing party and wish them well in their future endeavors.
All right, we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see how that pans out come March 11th. We've been speaking with Dapo Adaramewa, spokesperson for the Labour Party governorship candidate, Gbadebo Road Revival. Thank you so much for your time on the show. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we wish you all the best at the elections.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break now. We'll be back to discuss further. Stay with us.